Hello and welcome to the Baker and the Banker podcast. I'm Jenny Keller of Jenny Cookies, and this is my mortgage guy, Dan.
Hey. This is going to be fun today.
It's going to be a good one.
This is number 2, right? We're back for number 2.
Back for episode 2.
What was our first one? Recap. Remind me. It was only a week ago, but
1 week ago, we celebrated our 19th anniversary.
I know.
It was on marriage.
I know. So it was perfectly timed because we were taking off for a few days to go to the
happiest place on earth.
And it was fun. We definitely had a lot of fun. And this is strategically timed because while we were there enjoying smiles and laughter and we have really good memories of being there. It was like, I think our first date out of state happened at Disneyland back in 2015. Yeah. And we were reminiscing, and then we were talking about the next podcast episode. And we were at the happiest place on earth. And you suggested, well, why don't we talk about happiness?
So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be a good one, guys.
But it's not going to be about Disneyland.
No,
not this one.
It's not. Well, I went back after we decided we were going to talk about happiness. And I'm like, I got to find out how many people actually are happy. Because you go around town and you see frowns and you read negativity online. And there's doom and gloom in the news. The politics are negative. I mean, there's just a lot of yucky stuff. So how many people are walking around actually identifying being happy? And the studies show only 1/3 of people are happy.
Yeah. Well, that's
sad.
That's really sad, but it's not surprising. About a year ago, I made we were heading into a recession, right? So I made an Instagram post, how to recession-proof your life. And one of them was how to recession-proof your job. And I came across the same study that literally 2/3 of Americans work a job that they're unhappy with. And then you just mentioned that 2/3 of Americans down deep are not happy. And so I think this is a topic that we should talk about. This is a topic that needs to be talked about more and more, because I think that just like anything in life, I believe, I could be wrong here, but I believe that happiness is a skill. It can be improved and it can be worsened. And I think without you focusing on that, the opposite of happiness is being unhappy, not fulfilled, in a poor mood, lacking enjoyment and fulfillment. And I think that hopefully today we will inspire people to look into things that will make you happy. Yeah. So you can get the most out of this amazing life that we have.
Yes. So here's how happiness breaks down.
Okay.
50% of happiness comes from a genetic standpoint. 10% from life circumstances, which I honestly thought was going to be a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And 40% come from intentional activities. So that means 50% is kind of in your genetics, like how you were made.
This is pointed toward me.
No.
I agree with that 100%. I think I'm naturally wired to look at that Stanley cup of yours over there half empty instead of what is that thing half full of? I think so. I think that I'm wired that way. And if I were to look at, you have to look at genetics. So you look at the people that are around you that you're related to, that you raised you, if you will. And I love my mom and my dad. And no, my mom and my dad are not negative Nellies. But if you look at the family, our family, there is some negativity at multiple levels, whether it be parents or grandparents or great-grandparents, and so, or surrounding family. And so, yeah, I believe that 100% to be true. But then I like to then go to that 40% and say that what 40% is self-made. Yeah. 40% is something you've specifically done or are doing to make yourself happier.
So I think I'm the opposite of you. I see my Stanley all the way full.
All the time. Of better greens.
I try really hard to look for the good. Yeah. And I think this is a common misconception with happy people, that people think they're happy all the time or that they're fake happy. And I'll be real honest with you. Happy people still feel all the regular emotions that everybody else feels. We feel angry, sad, depressed, lonely, fearful.
You still have bad days. Happy people still have bad days.
We still have those bad days. I think I've just worked really hard to try to be more positive. I have had really hard things in my life that I've experienced, and I haven't necessarily shared them here. A lot of you guys have followed along from social media or my blog or I don't don't know, what else is there? Just the bake shop, I guess, business in general.
Getting to know you.
And I've always wanted that business to be a very positive space. In fact, my slogan at the bake shop is eat cookies, be happy. And our logo is a smiley face. And so I've always tried to just keep things light and uplifting. And have I gotten hate online before? I've had it all. I've been brutally beaten online. But what I've always done is deleted all those comments and got rid of all that right away, because I think what happens is that negativity breeds negativity. Yeah. And as wonderful as like my followers or customers or whoever they are have been, where they want to kind of get on there and stick up for me, I think that just causes more arguing. So that's just one example, but I've been through it, and I've just chosen always to look for the good and find things to be grateful for. And I was raised by a mom who's had a really hard life. Like, she's been through a lot of tough things, and she's always kept going. One day at a time is a slogan of hers, or this too shall pass. Just that good mentality that it's not going to last forever. Yeah. And that's something I'm proud of as a mom. I think that my kids have seen me go through a lot of tough things. Yeah. And Allie told me the other day, she came home and she said she was in a class and she had to describe her parents. And I can't remember what she described you as. I'm sure you do. What did she describe you as?
I don't remember.
Maybe hardworking, or I think it was a great thing that she described you as, but she said, I said my mom is strong. That was the one word. And I was like, I liked what she described you as though. And I almost was envious that that's what she didn't think of me as. I can't remember what it was, but when she said strong, I thought about it later, and I thought, I want to raise a strong daughter and a strong son.
If you go back to episode 1, last week's episode, one of the things that, and this was before I even knew about you, the things that I ended up learning later, I saw those strong characteristics in you, and that was very, very, very attractive. But the fact that Allie at 17 says that about you is absolutely incredible. One of the things that we have, so speaking of Allie, we were talking about this at Disneyland. It almost brings tears to my eyes thinking of this, but I remember Allie getting bullied in like the 3rd or 4th grade at a private Christian school of all places.
Poor Allie.
Girls are mean, and so are boys. And it's funny now that a couple of those boys that would bully her because she wore glasses are like, oh my gosh, Allie Keller, she's a little cutie now. But there were some girls that bullied her, and I remember that. And I remember you and I, it's something that you said. You and I both sat her down, and poor little, cute little tiny little Allie, 3rd grader, and you said something to her that is so important during those times. She was like, hurt people hurt others. And it just was like, it's something that we've learned as adults, but to be able to teach a kid that was so important. And so I tell you all of this because we're not talking about bullying and hard times, but Allie is able to come full circle and see that she went through tough times. And yeah, it was difficult getting bullied. And yes, she's watched you be tough and now looks at you as a strong person, a strong woman, which is so awesome. So tying this into happiness, tying this into happiness is, I think we all deal with things.
Yeah, we do. And happiness is not having the best of everything. It's having the ability to make the best of anything.
Yeah.
So it's just knowing that you did what you could with what you were given, right? So the podcast today is really a great reminder of things we can do every single day, little practices in our daily life to cultivate more happiness. And this isn't, come on, get happy, because we know life is hard. We talked last week about the cycle of life and the storms, right? And if you didn't listen last week,
it's a good one.
It was a good thing to remember and know as you walk through life that you're either going into a storm, you're in a storm, or you're coming out of a storm. And so it's always going to be like that. You're not always going to be happy, but how do you get yourself back into that good place when you are starting to go into a storm or you're in one?
Well, and I think today too, hopefully you'll walk away with some things too that will help maybe you can eliminate in your life that will, by eliminating those, will bring you more happiness. For example, like social media or people that you hang out with or stuff that you're putting into your eyes and your ears and your brain. And so, yeah, I think today's going to be a great episode. And it's also something that we practice on a daily basis because it's so easy
to be in a bad mood.
It is. Depending on the news, the media, negative headlines sell. They're in the business of getting clicks and getting views. And so, just by unplugging from all of that stuff. But I will tell you too, as a business person, as a father, as a husband, it's hard to stay in a good mood all the time. I could have a deal go sideways and someone freaking out on me and telling me everything of this way and that way of how bad I am. This does not happen all the time, by the way, but life happens, right? Business happens. And you got to snap out of that. So I love this saying too. Did you have a bad day or did you have a bad minute that turned into 24 hours? And so I think that's something that today, hopefully we'll bring about some information and just some awareness of things that you can do to improve or increase the amount of happiness in your life.
Yep. Well, one thing that I think everybody needs to realize is that you guys we are all the authors of our own story.
I love that.
And you said something the other day, like we talk about life all the time. We do our little walks, and that's when we get to have these deep conversations.
They're actually big walks now.
They're pretty big walks. In between our dog Penny barking, we get to have these deep thoughts. But you were saying, like, we don't know how much time we have. We could have tomorrow. We could have 2 weeks. We could have 2 months. We could have 2 years. We could have 100, probably not 100 years, but another 50 years.
Yeah.
And how are we going to spend them?
Yeah, what does your story look like?
What's your story?
Yeah, what's your story?
And are you in a funk right now? Mm-hmm. Do you want to change it? Like, there's a lot of people that get older and they're like, oh, I only have a few more years to live. And they're kind of throwing it away. Or they're living in this tragedy that they went through or some traumatic experience. And we're not discounting any of that.
Yeah.
But just a reminder that we have control of our own life. And I love that line in that Lizzo song where she says, boss up and change your life. Like, you're the boss of your own life. Yeah. You can change it. If you're in a bad space, turn it around and make it better. So,
yeah, best analogy ever, I think, is the story. We are living in a story. It's a story that we're the author of. It's a movie that we're the director of. Yep. I learned this a long time ago in business, and it's stuck with me. In fact, we've talked about it a lot. What is your story going to look like? So it doesn't matter how young you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. The story will end. What kind of ending does it have? The story also is going to have a really good chunk in the middle. And I was telling you this the other day. A coach taught me this a long time ago. He said, people want to read great stories. People want to listen to people that have great stories. One of the things that I always say to older people when I get the opportunity to sit down, I'll say, tell me your story. Like, how did you build this company? How did you do X, Y, and Z? I want to hear their story. I want to hear something that they overcame, some adversity that they dealt with, and who they became, after dealing with that.
Right.
What did that help them develop? Were they stronger? Did they go on and develop a great marriage or raise great kids or build a great company as a result of that? So,
yep, those traumas and tragedies and hardships and, poor experiences all have a lesson to be learned in them. Yeah. And that's the first thing on my list, which is mindset. It's all about mindset. You can be going through hell, right? What's that country song? Wait, I know you know it.
Just don't stop if you're going through hell.
No, I'm trying to think of it now. But
just keep going.
You can be going through the worst time, and it's bad, but you know that it's going to end. It's just like that storm, and what are you going to learn from it? Yeah. So positive mindset. If you can teach yourself to replace positive things with, I'm saying that backwards. Yep. Replace your negative thoughts with positive self-talk because it's so eeasy to get down on our own self. And you told me this story that I've heard it so many times. You've taught it to kids, to, your home buyers, whatever, in different classes that you've taught. But that story about Zig Ziglar and the girl that didn't like her job.
Yeah. So when I was in 2004, I was a college baseball coach, and I knew that I wanted to be inspirational. I wanted to get kids' attention.
Yeah.
And Merle Ash turned me on to this guy. Well, he didn't turn me on to it. Every time I rode in Merle's car with him. He always had this guy on the radio. I always thought he was a pastor because he had this southern twang to his voice. It was Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar single-handedly, now he's passed away, I think in 2012, single-handedly changed my life.
Yeah, you love Zig.
I love him. And to this day, when I get into a funk and I get down or I get a bad case of stinking thinking, I literally will go to my YouTube. I'll type in Zig Ziglar blank, whatever I need. Zig Ziglar motivation, Zig Ziglar inspiration, Zig Ziglar hope. He has so many great talks on that. But as a young adult, this is prior to Hudson being born, prior to Allie being born, probably pregnant with Allie, I was a college baseball coach, and I wanted to get kids to listen to me. I wanted to inspire kids to get more out of themselves selfishly because they would give more to the team, right? But if I figured out early on, if I could get kids to get the most out of themselves, they would run through a brick wall for me. And I'm sitting here listening to Zig Ziglar, and he's talking about hope and the secrets of success. And his book at the time was Over the Top. And then he wrote See You at the Top. And he gave this keynote, and it really meant nothing to me from a business standpoint because it was not in business at the time. And I was happy. Life was great. I had just met the woman of my dreams. We had just gotten married. We were most likely pregnant with Allie. My whole life ahead of me. And I hear this keynote from Zig Ziglar. And I'm going to summarize it. It's about a 10-minute keynote, and I'll summarize it to 2 or 3 minutes. But he was at a conference, leading a sales conference or a leadership conference, and he got a message from his assistant. And it said, this lady really is having a hard time, and she wants to meet you before your presentation. It happened to be in her hometown, and she was going to attend it just to get 5 minutes with Zig Ziglar. And he said, well, I'll get there early and I'll set up and she can meet me off the side of the stage. And this is back in the 80s, you guys, where nowadays everyone's a celebrity because of social media and you just can't do that. But Zig Ziglar meets with this lady. And she's like, oh, my God, I thank you so much for meeting with me. My life is terrible. It's fallen apart and all these things. And he says, well, tell me about your situation. And it's my job. I hate my job. And I hate everything about my job and blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay, what I'd like for you to do is I want you to write down everything that you like about your job. And she was opposed to doing that. She was like, well, I don't like anything about my job. This is where this. And he goes, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, that I don't think there's anything I can do to help you. And I don't think there's any company in the United States of America that could deal with a cancer in their company like you. And she was like, what do you mean? So he got her attention. And he said, I have 100% proof that no one will ever win or accomplish step 2 if they don't first accomplish step 1. Step 1, I need you to write down all the great things tonight before you go to bed that you like about your job. So he had a couple extra minutes. In fact, they just did it on the spot. What happened in the next 2 or 3 minutes was she ended up writing down 13 things that she actually liked about her job.
But you missed all the parts about... You didn't tell the story very good. I think we're
What do you
getting
mean?
like, do you get health benefits?
Yeah,
Where's
so
your,
I'll get into that. The 13 things that she liked was, he said, do you get paid for your job or is it volunteer? She goes, well, I get paid. And then he was like, okay, do you get paid above the median or below the median? She was like, well, I think I get paid above the median. I get X number $1,000 a year. And he goes, okay, good. Do you have health benefits? She said, well, yeah, I have health benefits and vision. And he goes, okay, what about 401k? She was like, yeah, I have a 401k match program and profit sharing. So anyways, goes down this list of 12 or 13 located near her house, 3 weeks vacation a year, corner office with a window, gets an hour-long lunch break every single day, all these great things. And he says, I don't see the problem here. And he said, I want you every single night before you go to bed, I want you to read this list, all the things you like about your job, and I want you to change one word from like to love. And when you get up in the morning, as you're doing your hair, getting ready for work, I want you to just recite the same 12 things, all the things you like about your job. Fast forward, 8 months later, there's another conference in town that Zig Ziglar happens to be speaking at. She shows up, she's in the front row. And in between the event, she comes up to him, gives him a big hug and says, oh my gosh, I don't know if you remember me, but I got to tell you something. I can't believe in the last 6 months how my company and everyone I work with has changed. And he just looked at her and he hugged her and he said, did they change or did you change? And so he calls it stinking thinking. Ever since then, I call it stinking thinking. We all get into that moment where it's just negative. Our vision is clouded. And I love that story because as a young kid, I didn't really think about that in business, but those seeds were planted into my mind. And so every time I start to have a poor outlook, I go back to that. Okay, what do I like about X? And then change that, take an inventory of that, and then change the word from like to love.
It's a good story, Dan. I like it.
I love Zig Ziglar.
I know you do. Now you're the guy driving around with that. Like Earl.
Merle.
I
love Merle too.
So it's all this kind of grouped all into the same thing. Your positive mindset, looking for the good, being grateful. I think no matter how down in the dumps you can be, no matter how crappy your life is, you can always find something to be grateful for. Always.
Yep.
I challenge you to find a life so bad that you can't find one thing to be grateful for. One thing I did last fall and I thought was really fun was I started just like capturing a little photo every single day or video of like a little highlight in my day. Big, small, grand, not as grand. And then at the end of the week, kind of a recap of that. And sometimes it was something really silly, like Hudson and I went to McDonald's and got the new Halloween bucket, and that was something that brought us joy. It was watching Allie play volleyball. It was you and I maybe meeting for a lunch date. It could have been a picture of my dogs. But even in the crappiest days, you can always find like one little spot of joy in it. And it's actually a fun little practice. If you just start your day going like, oh, I love that. I'm going to just snap a picture of that. Or maybe you're a journaler and you could write, I don't know if journaler is a word, but you could journal every day or write a little note in the note section of your phone so that the next time you're just feeling ungrateful or moody, you can kind of look back on that and think, oh, I actually do have things to be happy about.
I think that's important. I think the picture, taking a photo is like the modern day journaling.
It is. It's fun.
I think there was a study, there was an interview out a long time ago about George Bush when he was in the office right after 9/11, and it was just horrible. The nation was going through a hard time. We were, after that, we were in a recession. Not a lot of positivity. And they had asked him after he got out of the office, how did you stay positive? How did you keep going through all of that? And he was like, I started off each one of my days and I wrote 5 gratitude notes to people. Thank you cards, gratitude notes to people. And so it works. It works. Hard to be in a bad mood and be grateful at the same time.
That makes somebody feel really good too when they receive when they're on the receiving end of that note.
Yeah.
So what about when you're just feeling low though? Like you're feeling like you don't have self-confidence, you've got, weaknesses, and what can we do? Because that can make you feel unhappy, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to identify some of your strengths and things to feel good about.
Mm-hmm.
It's always nice to have something to feel proud of.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes along with something that you are constantly doing, which is growing. I've never met somebody who works harder on themselves. Self-improvement, you read books, you listen to podcasts, you study things, you learn new skills. And I think that has really served you well. You said before you don't think we'd be married.
The deck is stacked against me, babe. I got that gene, that 40% not
true.
in a good mood gene.
That's
so I figured it out a long time ago that, I'm wired to look at that glass that's half empty, genetically wired. So I have to rewire my mind. I have told you this before, and I've gone on podcasts before and given talks on this. I would not be married today. I would not be the person that I am today. Not saying that I'm a great person, but I'm very, I'm proud of what I've achieved in my marriage and with my kids and with my business. I wouldn't be here today had I not been anchored in the Word of God and then read all of those books that you see in my office. And so I think personal development, personal growth is so big. I think what you put in your eyes and your ears and allowing your brain to process that is so important.
Really
it's
is.
So important. 2 tips for self-confidence. If you're lacking self-confidence, little wins, little victories. If you're in a funk and you're lying around and you're not doing anything, just one little thing. There's a really great book that Hudson and Allie have read. I bought it for them because I heard the guys, he gave what do you call it when you graduate from college? He gave the talk at the University of Texas, commencement speech a long time ago in 2014. And it was a general in the armed forces, and he wrote a book called Make Your Bed.
Yeah.
And it's so important. Just a little thing. Get up, make your bed. Small promises to yourself, small accomplishments lead to bigger accomplishments, lead to bigger wins. So I think that's
grow your confidence too.
I think so. It's my best piece of advice there. Get up and move. The other thing is we've all been depressed. I have been down in the dumps. and I know you
Everybody
have too.
has.
Everyone has. The biggest thing is acknowledge it. It's okay to be depressed. Our bodies are meant to be depressed. It's just not okay to stay depressed. It's not okay. I always say this. It's okay to be down. It's not okay to stay down. And I learned that from Zig Ziglar. So the best way to get out of a funk is just to get moving. Go on that walk. Just go get some fresh air and just start moving.
Yep, that was the next thing on my list. Care for your mind and your body. So all the simple things we all know. Get your 7 to 9 hours of sleep so you're rested. Everybody's crabby when they don't get enough sleep. Eat well. Eat a balanced diet because food is the energy. And I'll always say, though, there's an exception there with cookies. Exercise 30 minutes a day if you can. Exercise has endorphins in it. It releases endorphins and it makes you happy. So find something you like to do. It doesn't have to be going to the gym or doing anything super hard. You can literally just walk.
You can come to Richmond Beach with us and
You
walk
can
the
go on our
stairs.
nightly walk if you want. Yeah. Take care of your health.
Yeah.
As we are all aging, unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's so important to take care of our health. It really, really matters.
Yeah.
Smoking, abusing drugs, alcohol, all those things are so horrible for our bodies. And I'm going to say this. Drink your better greens.
Drink your better greens.
If you can. And that's kind of the health side of it, but mind and body are so connected. I think it's important to laugh.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with funny people. Turn on Friends if you need, or a show that you think is funny or a funny podcast. Call a funny friend. Laughter is, for me personally, laughter is such medicine. And we talked about this last week where when I feel kind of burned out, there's nothing better than getting away with a couple of my friends that we just laugh when we're together.
Or they make you laugh.
They make me laugh. We all laugh. And it's just like, it's food for the soul. If you are kind of stuck at home, I've had those days where you're just like, I've just been around my house. I think we all felt it in 2020. We were stuck in our house. Yeah. But getting out of the house is really therapeutic. Turning on some music, maybe going to get a coffee, strolling through Target, just rolling down your windows and getting some fresh air. And maybe you do make yourself like a little Spotify or Apple playlist of really feel good songs. One thing you've told me, and I can't not think of you when I hear this song, but it's the Chris Tomlin song. You told me that a while ago, and you're like,
how can
I can't be in a bad mood. Like, I can lose a deal and turn this song on, and I'm immediately in a better mood. And he's like, you can play this at my funeral.
No, I want you to play that. It's Chris
I love
Tomlin.
it. It's such a good song. And I've felt like that too now. So like even you saying that kind of inspired me where I'm like, I have that on one of my playlists now because
I've made a playlist on my phone. It's called the DK prayer list. And it's got a lot of those songs that are just like
kind of reminders.
Yeah, I play them in the morning. So I start on the stair climber when I'm at the gym, listening to just getting going into that. And it gets me in the mood. Sometimes I just listen to it the whole time. Sometimes I listen to 2 or 3 songs and then it gets me into the podcast that I want to listen to. But I think it's so, again, I'm going to come back to what you'd be surprised what happens when you put uplifting and just fruitful things in your eyes and in your ears. Yep. It's just try it.
I'll never forget it. We got Ellie her very first pair of earpods. What are they called? AirPods?
AirPods, yeah.
And Dan takes a Sharpie and writes on her brand new pair of AirPods. And what did you write?
You are what you listen to.
Yes.
Poor
Allie, but it's
what
true.
You listen to. Yeah.
It's true because there's a lot of garbage out there.
Yeah, those rap songs aren't going to help you.
Yep. The next thing is finding a sense of purpose. It's so important to kind of know where we're going and have that sense of direction, whether that is, goals that you're trying to achieve, personal growth that you're working on. All of those things can really boost your happiness. And maybe you're not really sure what that is right now. And a good way to start is to start serving others. Yeah. Whenever you're feeling bad, and your life sucks and, this happened to you and that happened to you, when you go out and you start doing things for others, serving others, your perspective changes really quickly. And it also has that positive effect on you because you feel really good. So not only did you make somebody else happy, you feel better about it.
Well, the focus turns from you to someone else, and that's big.
Yeah.
So,
And maybe you don't have time to go like volunteer or do something crazy, but throughout your day, you can always look for little ways to do like a random act of kindness. Back in 2019, when I was doing my book launch for a cookie class, we started the Big Cookie Give.
Yeah.
And it was only supposed to be for 30 days. And we were going around just the community locally here. And I was giving out cookies for people that were deserving, or just kind of keeping an eye out for anybody, like the lady working at the Starbucks drive-thru, or the woman behind the deli counter at Hagen, or a teacher at school, or a guy working at a crosswalk. There was just so much opportunity to be like, hey, you look like you're doing a good job, and hand them a cookie. And as silly as that little cookie was, it made people so happy. And so we ended up taking the Big Cookie Give across the country. I mean, on airplanes to different states. And I remember outside of the Today Show, we were throwing out cookies into the crowd. And people will still stop me or send a comment and say, like, you gave me a cookie once on an airplane. And now it's my best travel tip. Whenever I travel anywhere, you guys listen up. Whenever you take an airplane ride, always bring your flight crew cookies. It makes them so happy.
Or even a candy bar or a gum.
Anything. A $5 Starbucks card.
Yeah.
Because I just think they don't really get thought of.
Yeah.
And that's not just that industry. It's any industry. But those little pay it forward moments, they're so good for our happiness. They spread happiness, but they really make us feel good about ourselves too. I love that. I think we should always be doing that. And then beyond this is more like relationship wise, building our strong support systems, because say we're in our funk or we're just low and we really need somebody to talk to. Yeah. And you actually made this your word of the year, which was relationships and
in business.
In business.
Because I felt like the past 3 years when mortgage rates were really, really low, I was in processing mode. I was trying to help as many people as we could, because as fast as I could, because I wanted to make sure we took care of everyone. But the problem is I didn't get and plus COVID, we weren't allowed to sit down face to face. So I just felt like everything was surface level, and that's not how I built my business. And I didn't like that. So I reprogrammed myself this last year, and hey, their key word for 2023 is relationships.
Right. And that's a good one. But also, you have really cultivated your relationship with one of your realtors who's become a super close friend of yours. Yeah. And I'm really grateful that you've become so close, because he's such a good guy. He has so much wisdom. He's actually younger than us, but he's a great dad. He's a great husband. He's a great businessman. He loves Jesus. Like, I am so impressed by the things that you and him have met about, fellowshipped about. So I think it's really important for us as humans to have that relationship with others. And I've never had
that.
You never have. Dan does not have friends. And so I'm so grateful to, his name is Zach. I'm really grateful to Zach that he's really took you under his wing. But it also matters the kinds of people that you're surrounding yourself with. Yeah. And we've always taught our kids, like, show us your friends and we'll show you your future. It matters, you know.
I learned this a long time ago, and I think this is a good, since we're on this topic, here's a big takeaway, and I did not have this in my notes. This is just coming off the cuff, Jenny.
Oh, no.
I learned this a long time ago from a book that I read called The Power of Who. And again, coincidentally, he was neighbors with Zig Ziglar for years. So there's no coincidence there that he's a great best-selling author. Bob Beaudine, I believe is his name. He said it's so important in life that we have a personal board of directors. So think about that. Personal board of directors. If you're running a company, you have board of directors, and your CFO is going to be on that. Your vice president's going to be on that. In life, maybe your wife is on that, or your spouse or your partner, your pastor, or a counselor if you're not religious, maybe a nutritionist, a business person if you're in business, maybe a mentor, a physician, an attorney. So having your own personal board of directors is so important.
I love that. You and I have talked about that before. I remember when you read that book and you told me that. And I remember going through my personal list of directors.
You had a good one.
That I had, you know, I have a business person. I've got you. I've got certain friends that you go to for different things.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean you have to have a million friends, because I think when you're younger, you think, oh, it's so great to have all these friends. And then as you age, you realize it's fine to just have a couple. Mm-hmm. I've talked to Allie about that quite a bit, because she's had a hard time finding really great quality, solid friendships. And I'm like, honey, it does not matter how many friends you have. You probably won't even be friends with these people once you leave high school. True. But you only need a couple. So it's definitely quality over quantity. One little quote I love so much is to stay close to people that feel like sunshine. And it's hard to find those people. There's only a couple in my life, but I know their little faces as soon as I read that quote. And those are the people that are on your board of directors that you're calling or FaceTiming or getting together with when you're not feeling like sunshine. Yeah. And if you don't have somebody like that in your life, maybe your new goal is to be the sunshine. I love that one.
I love that a lot. Yeah. I need to find people that...
I'm your sunshine. The other thing is connecting with others so that you feel like you're a part of something. Being a part of a community, being a part of a club, a church, a group. We are wired to be with others. Humans are made
social beings.
We're social.
Yeah.
And so we're going to feel lonely when we're all alone and we're not putting ourselves out there. And it's hard to put yourself out there. You're like, oh, I'm not interested in that. I don't have hobbies. I don't go to things like that. I don't have kids, or I don't have whatever it is. Yeah. And it's a bit of an excuse because there are all kinds of clubs out there to be a part of. There are churches everywhere. There are...
Well, if you want proof of this, just look at Peloton during the COVID shutdown. That community and their stock went through the roof because...
You felt like you were part of something.
You were part of a community, and we couldn't go socialize, so we got a part of this online community, and we needed that so much. That was one of the bad things that came out of 2020 and 2021.
That isolation.
The isolation, yeah. So it's so true.
And Peloton got me. Together we go far. That's their slogan. I love that. If you guys want to ride together, I'm Jenny Cookies on Peloton.
They got you.
The last thing in my tips notes here... is a huge one. And this is stop comparing yourself to others. And we live in a day and age it's all in your face. We're looking at Facebook. We're looking at TikTok. We're looking at Instagram. We're looking at, what's the other one? Snapchat. Hopefully not. But, and we're seeing what everybody else is up to, what they got, where they went, if they're on a vacation, who they're dating, what kind of success they're having, where you're not invited or what you're not doing. I mean, you get to experience that fear of missing out. Yeah. I am so glad I didn't have social media when I was a kid. I honestly think this is the hardest time for kids ever to be growing up in this. But adults are still experiencing this. And you have to be, I guess, mentally tough enough to go through that and not get down on yourself or wish that you had that. And if you can identify that maybe you are in kind of a low or a funk, maybe it's time to turn off the social media and go take a walk.
Yeah, because that could be causing it. The comparison, what is that? And this kind of ties right in, and a great way to put a bow on today's podcast is comparison is the thief of all joy. And I think if you get it caught up in that comparison game, comparing your relationship, your life, your money, your business, your looks to someone else's, there is no way humanly possible you can be content or happy with who you are. Yep. And that goes back to just that Zig Ziglar story that I shared, like taking inventory of all the great things about you that you like and your life that you like and that are going good for you. Are you healthy? Do you have a job? Do you have a roof over your head? I mean, even going back to the bare basics, the essentials. And you have to also remember, too, that people aren't really posting day-to-day type stuff on social media. No. It's their highlight reels. And we both run businesses, and social media is a big factor in our businesses. So, of course, we're posting, more positive, uplifting type things. But you have to understand that's 1 second or 5 seconds of a 24-hour day that particular person is living in. And you're getting the highlight reel of that. So, don't play the comparison game. It's just going to set you up for failure and I think unhappiness.
Are you guys ready for your challenge this week?
The challenge of the week. All right, what is it? What do you got?
This is my favorite challenge, I think, so far out of the two we've had.
Okay.
Smile. We're going to smile this week. It's my favorite Dolly Parton quote. If you see somebody without a smile, give them yours. Smiling, practicing smiling, like it makes you feel better. I think there's actually proof in there that when you smile, it changes your demeanor. So I want you guys this week to practice smiling. I always tell Dan this because he does all kinds of videos and calls and different things. And I'm like, you need to smile more.
It's not that I'm unhappy. She was like, you just look too serious all the time.
You look kind of unhappy or grumpy.
It's a male thing. I think it's a man thing that like when you smile too much or a lot, it makes you look more vulnerable. And I'm learning that it's not. I'm learning that I do need to smile more and be more happy looking, but I am a very happy person now.
You are. I think a good way to practice smiling is smiling when you're doing something you don't like to do. So when you're on that stair climber in the morning, or, you know, you're cleaning the toilets at home, or whatever that looks like.
Whistle while you work.
Whistle while you work. So, and usually smiles are reciprocated for the most part. So this week, your challenge is to smile and have a really great week. I can't wait for next week. We've got more good content.
Yeah, we got a good one
on the way. Dan, you did a great job today.
I love you. Thank you for making me smile.
You're welcome. I love you too. Have a good week, you guys.